1, 2. Audio check. Check 1, 2. Audio check. Check 3, 4.
So we're gonna have you guys, the three amigos, sit over on that side,
great.
so the camera's facing you guys.
That's right. Do you have to sing? Do you have margaritas?
That's
I do.
right.
Hey. I got to send my MoDOT friend over here a text to make sure the roads were just okay.
Yeah.
So it's funny getting to watch the news and it's just like, it's ice, it's a sheet of ice.
I mean, I didn't have any problems.
No, but I get nervous.
Yeah.
I'm like, in the old days, pre-COVID, we just
Yeah.
toughed it out,
Suck it up, buttercup.
But now you're like, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like, I guess tonight, maybe tomorrow's worse than today. I don't know.
Oh, I hadn't seen it.
So
I thought it was supposed to warm up and all melt.
I thought it was supposed to warm up and just be rainy.
It's like,
So
But
it's
it did
supposed to rain
the baby
and then
chair?
snow.
rain
That's
and
from what
snow.
I hear.
oh,
Fantastic. Great.
you just can't get out of winter.
My
right?
kid, who needs to go to school?
Oh yeah, you probably didn't have.
Okay, are we on? Are we
Thank you.
live?
So do you see how it says mute? So now we are transmitting sound right now. So they can, so Sarah can hear us.
Got it.
I can hear you. I heard my name, so
Sarah, can you hear us?
She can now.
I can. You all sound great. And I can see Julie and Katie.
They're using a Zoom feature that, I mean, just zoom in on us. Awesome.
I tried to sit on Matt's side, but
Yeah.
It's good. It's not like extreme close up, like what my mom does when she like FaceTimes me. But y'all are good.
So how do I make sure when I'm joining
Yes,
here,
sir.
Mute all the things.
yeah, I'm muted, but I need to mute my speakers too, right?
Mhm.
Yes. So let's,
that's
bottom
the
there.
best.
Yeah,
You
there
know,
it is.
yellow.
And then,
Yes.
and then, so now you're ready and you should be good to join the meeting. So now you are good to share content, sir.
And the mic in there is really good, so I can even hear you ladies whispering.
You can't?
Awesome.
I can. Yeah.
That's really good, actually.
So just as a yeah.
That's great. Okay, let's see, I need to make one.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay. I can see that you're starting to share your content, Matt.
Good deal. Okay, I think we're good.
I
Brian?
don't see it at all, Matt. Let me see.
Yeah, that's purposeful.
Okay.
I'm not speaking. Brian, I know you're on, or do you want us to just hang out until it actually starts, or hang up and rejoin?
Matt, can you hear me? I just wanted to say, I just wanted to make sure that you heard me. I never saw the deck. I saw that you were attempting to share your content, but it never actually showed on my side. So I just want to make sure that.
Is that because maybe Brian,
It's possible you turned it off before it.
all right, let me try it again.
Try it again.
Okay. I just want to, you tell me when you start sharing and I'll tell you what the lag time is there. Like,
Okay, it says I am sharing.
okay, there it is.
Okay, that wasn't bad.
No,
Good deal.
Okay. And so my understanding, I think from Brian is that they'll start live streaming at 9:45. So he's like, y'all can, keep your lines muted,
Right.
turn your cameras off. I know that may be a little different for where you're at, but.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and go on mute right now.
Mhm.
Ryan, this is Nancy. I'm online. Can you hear me?
This is Sarah Gott. I can hear you, Judge.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're live?
Judge, this is Matt Doherty in Kansas City. We can hear you.
Great, I can hear you as well.
Judge, we're just gonna stay on mute and off video until 10 o'clock unless you tell us otherwise.
That's fine.
Stream audio mic check. Stream audio mic check.
We read you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Is this Kansas City I'm talking to?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Stream audio mic check. Stream audio mic check. We read you loud and clear. Okay, great. Is this Kansas City I'm talking to? Morning, Judge DePel. This is John Kleiser. Just checking if you can hear me.
I can hear you just fine, Mr. Kleiser.
Thank you very much.
Judge, can you hear me?
Yes, Commissioner, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
And I have one call-in user that's also unmuted. Okay, it looks like it's 10 o'clock and I see all of the commissioners online. And I believe all of the parties, or at least those that were going to participate in this presentation. Brian, can you go ahead and take us on this live stream? You can go ahead and go on the record. So, good morning. Thank you all for joining us virtually as the icy weather made it next to impossible to get into the office this morning. This is case number EW 2023-0199. It's January 22nd, 2024. And we are meeting virtually this morning for an on-the-record presentation in the matter of a collaborative workshop for customer education and outreach regarding the introduction of default time of use rates by Evergy Metro Inc., doing business as Evergy Missouri Metro, and Evergy Missouri West Inc., doing business as Evergy Missouri West. My name is Nancy DePel, and I'm the regulatory law judge presiding today. Again, due to the inclement weather and the hazardous travel conditions, the Commission's convening this presentation virtually. Because it's being held via WebEx video and telephone conference, I ask that anyone that doesn't need to speak to please mute your electronic devices and microphones so that we don't have interference. And it makes it easier for everyone to hear the speakers. I'd also ask that you speak one at a time, slowly and distinctly, so that we are recording this, and should we need to make a transcript or someone wants to listen to the recording later, they'll be able to identify who's speaking and what they're saying. So all of the commissioners are present online, and I'm going to ask if the council for the interested stakeholders would like to make entries of appearance or at least let their presence be known. So I'll start with Evergy.
Thank you, Judge. On behalf of the company, let the record reflect the appearance of Roger Steiner and James Fisher.
All right, Mr. Fisher, and you have some others with you online that are going to
Yes.
be making the presentation today?
Yes, that's correct. Kim Winslow and her group in Kansas City are available to do the presentation.
All right, thank you. And staff?
Nicole Mers for staff of the commission. We also have some staff people on, including Sarah Lange, in case there's any
You cut off there, Ms. Mers. I'm assuming you're saying in case there are questions for staff. Is public
Yes,
counsel?
I was. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. Public counsel?
Thank you, Judge DePel. John Kleiser on behalf of the Missouri Office of the Public Counsel. Judge, just a quick note. I think we're getting a lot of feedback. I think it might be coming from your computer because both yours and the speakers keep being highlighted.
Okay. Are you still hearing that feedback?
Let me check for a second. I didn't hear it that time.
Okay. Let me know if you hear that in the future. I had my papers over my microphone, so maybe that was causing the problem.
No, Judge, I think you need to, Judge, I think you need to mute when others are speaking. I think that's
Okay.
the key.
Okay, great. Is there anyone from ChargePoint or Midwest Energy Consumers Group or Ameren that wanted to make an entry? All right, I'm not hearing anyone, so I believe then we could go ahead with Evergy's presentation. And commissioners, if you have questions along the way, feel free to jump in and ask your questions. Or I'm sure the company will have questions taken at the end.
Okay, with that, I will kick it off. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Katie McDonald, and I lead public affairs here at Evergy. I was with Chuck in November when we presented about 8 weeks ago at the last on the record presentation. And today what we'd like to do, we had a lot of great discussion. The last on the record was nearly entirely focused on the education and outreach campaign, as we had just gotten to the place of nearly all customers being moved over to the default rate if they had not selected a rate. And so what we did today is we took the good discussion and questions from the last on the record, and those questions formed the basis of this agenda that you see today. With me are two of my colleagues, Julie and Kim, and I will have both of them introduce themselves after we do a brief safety moment. As you all know, we start each meeting at Evergy with a safety or diversity and inclusion moment. And I think it is timely and appropriate to just remind folks, I think all of us had different situations from a weather perspective when we woke up today. I know for me, I was most focused on whether or not my children would be in school and whether I'd need to be teacher and presenter today at the same time, but luckily they are in school. And so it's just really important for us to remember not only to check the weather where we are, but where we are going. So since weather patterns can be very different in our region, depending on even what part of the city we live in. So with that, I will turn it over to Julie and Kim to introduce themselves.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Julie Dragoo, and I'm the Senior Director of Customer Strategy and Support. I lead the teams that supported the implementation of the TOU rates through project delivery, the execution of the billing system changes, training, change management, and data analytics. So I'll cover a few of the more operational type of things this morning.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, good morning. My name is Kim Winslow. I'm Senior Director of Energy Solutions. My team supports our products and services for our customers, residential and commercial customers. So my team focuses on energy efficiency, demand response, battery storage. We also assist with our regulatory team and the development of the TOU rates as well. Anything just about that is related to how our customers are using energy behind the meter. My team works to develop those products and services to present to our commissions.
And with that, Julie?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead. Yep. So this should be a familiar slide to many of you. So we had been providing a weekly and then more recently a monthly update on the time of use enrollments. So you can see this slide depicts the amount of customers that have enrolled in each different plan. You can see the majority, about 84% are enrolled in our default time-based plan. Now, also that about 70% of our customers were defaulted into that rate. So there was a nice chunk of customers who elected to participate in that plan well before the default. Okay. I think another area that was of interest from these groups when Katie and Chuck led the last on the record presentation in November was a breakdown of enrollment by segment. So as you think about how we look at our customers in categories such as, seniors, low income, non-digital, our rural customers, all electric, just what kind of participation we were getting in the different rates from those groups. So you can see, this is a visual breakdown. So of the different plans, each of the customer segments. For the most part, you can tell that most of the customers followed the overall of all customers. I think where you see a few differences is in the non-digital customers are more in that 90% range of customers who are participating in the default time-based plan. But otherwise, most of the others sort of followed the enrollment of all customer groups. This is just a segmentation summary. Just wanted to share this so you could see just from an all customers perspective how the different groups compare and just the volume of customers in each of the groups. As a reminder, when you're segmenting customers, customers could be included in multiple segments, right? So you could be a senior living in a rural area, et cetera, et cetera. So from a rate switching update, I think this was another area that was of interest to folks. So this is an update as of 1/12. So I think from the last customer report that we filed in that first full week of January, we have a bit of an update. So this reflects the amount of customers who have changed rates from their original either selection or the default rate. I think we have been sharing this data monthly. So this view is probably not new to anyone. I did just want to share some insights, right? So as we looked into, exactly what's going on with switching and customers who are changing rates, it's just about 2% of our customers that have actually made a rate switch since electing a time of use rate. So not a ton of people, but an interesting group of folks to look at. So you saw that we had, I would say, just under 11,000, customers on that previous slide that have made a switch. About 2,400 of those switchers are customers that were previously on the original 3-period time of use rate prior to 2023. So if you think about that, those were folks that were actively engaged and participating in a time of use rate before the mandate for residential customers. So I think it's an interesting point, just knowing that they are a little bit more engaged and probably paying attention to those rates. About, I think I mentioned this before, a little over 406,000 customers were defaulted into the default plan over the October through December timeframe. So about 70%. So 2,000 customers have selected a new rate since being transitioned to the default. So if you think about that, that means sometime in the October, November, December timeframe, they were moved to the default time-based plan and then have since elected a different plan. So while we are encouraging customers, to stay on a rate plan for a few months so they can, see the impacts of the bill and across time, you can tell some of these folks are changing plans right out of the gate. Another group that's in this count, which again, they're making a different choice, right? So customers have moved to a net meter specific time of use rate. So have made a solar installation at their home. This is just another interesting view of the rate switching, right? So this is just the recent rate choice. That's hard to say 3 times. The recent rate choice of customers. So if we looked at just the customers who have elected a new rate since October, and that's the split for the approximately 5,700 switchers or so. So the breakdown of what rates they're selecting. The other thing I'm going to cover is a little bit of the average payment plan update. So I'm starting with a couple of slides that should look familiar to you as they are details that we've been sharing in the monthly report. And this slide in particular is kind of becoming moot, right? Because when we were early in the election period and customers were switching, it was an ability to track kind of how are the average payment plan customers either electing sooner or falling behind, and kind of our regular customers. But now this is just reflecting of all the accounts, who's on a time of use rate, which is just nearly everyone, and same with our average payment plan customers. This is also a familiar bit of information. So this was one of the questions that was asked as part of the monthly report. And it's a look at kind of when a customer was previously on the average payment plan and they were transitioned or elected a time of use rate, what is their current status of their average payment plan enrollment? And you can see, you'll notice these numbers do not match what's on the front of that previous slide, because this is just looking at customers who were previously on APP before they made the rate switch change. We've had several more enrollments, new customers enrolling, so those numbers won't ever match. But you can see the breakdown. Most customers who were previously on the average payment plan are still on the average payment plan. You will see over time that customers who are not on the average payment plan, there will be situations that customers will fall off of those plans either by their election or other circumstances. I think one of the curious questions around the average payment plan for this group was really, are we seeing that customers are taking it at relatively the same percentages as they had previously? And that is absolutely the case. So you can see in this graph of just the past couple of years, we average around 115,000 customers on the average payment plan a month. And these trends are continuing. So you can see that in the winter months, our customers enrolled in average payment plan go up, because that is part of the cold weather payment plan that they get enrolled in the winter season. So that participation goes up during that time, and then you can see it kind of flattens out for the rest of the year. I'm going to turn it over to Kim unless there are any specific questions.
All right, thank you. On this slide, I know that there was interest from the commissioners just around the TOU bill impacts. Just as a reminder, Chuck Casely had presented to the commission back in August regarding the bill impacts from adoption of TOU rates using Oracle's online tool analysis. So I think you're familiar that we are utilizing Oracle or OPower for our rate comparison tool, which also comes with some very valuable information that we are able to review at certain periods of time. So as Chuck had presented on that back in August, if customers were moving to the default time-based plan, which was, or that's the peak adjustment charge or peak reward saver program, our customers, the majority of our customers would see a bill decrease both in Metro and West. So about 73.5% to 80% receiving a bill decrease. Those customers, however, that saw the bill increase, largely those were the customers that we see that are on an all-electric rate. We also know that through our analysis that roughly about 60% of those all-electric customers would see some type of a bill increase. Now, this would be due to the loss of that discount that those customers had previously been receiving that was then erased with the time of use plan. Katie, in just a couple of slides, she'll talk a little bit more about some of the messaging and some of the education that we have been making to those all-electric customers. I think that there was also some additional questions around how often we were planning on running this analysis. As you can imagine, this is a great deal of information that Oracle is processing and developing their bill impact analysis. So we have taken a look to see when is the most appropriate time to be able to run that customer bill impact analysis. We believe that there's a lot of very meaningful information that can be gathered from that, and we'll utilize that to better inform our customer education, perhaps any future rate recommendations or business decisions, for example. But knowing that there is a cost associated with us to have Oracle run that analysis, we want to be very prudent in when we determine that we should be running that analysis. Okay. So now let's talk about the impact to electric heat customers. We know that over the last probably 10 days, it's been very, very cold. And so to address that, I mean, we have been looking at or talking to our customer call center as well as our Connect Center to understand what is the impact of some of this colder weather, this significantly colder weather. How has that impacted our customers in relation to the time of use rates? I guess I would take one step back in saying that fortunately, we have not seen, an increase in TOU calls associated with the colder weather. Certainly, we do know that December of 2023, it was warmer than normal. So there was 23% lower heating degree days year over year. So at least when our customers started receiving their first TOU bills, and they've received one to two TOU bills since we finished that transition, we haven't seen many customers call in. I think what's important to note from that is that once we made that transition, customers seem to be more comfortable with those time of use rates and are starting to settle into what their bills are looking at. I know just talking with our Connect Center personnel, they visit with customers, some of those lower income customers who come into our center. And they saw a significant decrease in those walk-ins prior to Q4 2023. I think with some of the media and the concern about the time of use rates, they were coming in and asking more questions. But we've seen a significant decrease of those customers calling in, as well as we've seen just a decrease in the TOU calls that have been offered from September to December. So decreasing from 31,000 calls to 1,800 calls on that specific TOU call. So we're happy to see that those calls have been decreasing. I think though, once our customers do receive their bill following these sub-zero temperatures, we would expect to see some increase of calls or calls relating to their bill. I think though, when we take a step back and we look at those customers that were significantly impacted by those sub-zero customers, first of all, those customers, all electric customers who are on dual fuel or hybrid heat pumps, those customers have some type of auxiliary backup heat, typically natural gas. So when the temperature hits at around 32 degrees, their heat pump will switch over to that auxiliary heat or gas, the gas heat. We do know, though, however, that those all-electric resistance heating and electric heat pumps with electric resistance backup, we do know that those customers are being the most heavily impacted because those units have been constantly running and trying to keep up with the temperature difference. And also there would be impact to their bill because they're also running during those peak hours to try and catch up with that cold weather. So they're running all out throughout the day. On the next slide, okay, I'll turn this over to Katie to talk about the outreach support for those customers.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. So as Kim mentioned, and as we talked about in a lot of detail in November at the On the Record presentation, when we focused a little more on these special groups, we did talk about that. We previewed that when we got into the winter seasons, we would be focused on that electric heat segment. As we know, as Kim just walked through, that group is most impacted during the winter months. And so We are doing the standard communication that everyone else gets. They're going to be getting their rate education report. They're getting their weekly email. We have direct mail for non-email customers. But for electric heat rate customers, in our monthly reports, we have included, and you see copies here, but of course you can't read the copy, but in our monthly reports, we've included the copy of the email and the direct mail outreach that goes specific to electric heat rate customers. And that is focused on reminding them of the peak time periods, providing them tips for how they can best manage their usage given their specific situation, and really focus on saving opportunities during the winter season. We also, I think this came up in the On the Record, a question about whether or not we specifically messaged the loss of the discounted rate. And we did specifically message that and had those examples included in the monthly filing. We will continue to focus on this customer segment during the winter months. And then we will begin in the spring also adding additional messaging around our MIA products so that we can be cross-promoting with this audience as well. Moving to income eligible and seniors, we talked about that in 2023, we did more than 70 outreach events in the community with our community affairs team. We are continuing the training that is specific for our agency partners, and that training has been invaluable because for many customers in both of these segments, their trusted advisors are those agency partners. And so it's been really helpful for us to educate the agency partners so that they can help share knowledge about TOU and the specific rates to those customers rather than just asking them to call or walk into one of our Connect centers. We also have been utilizing our bilingual handout and the videos that we have to facilitate that understanding and engagement. So as we move into 2024, we will continue to host events, we'll participate in existing events, and then we'll continue to have specific direct mail and specific email outreach to both of those segments as well. And this just gives you an example. Again, all of these specific pieces of collateral have been included in the monthly reports. But the purpose of this slide is just to give you a view of the frequency that we are reaching special groups. We are trying to reach them often, but not so often that they tune out the messaging. And so it's a very consistent look and feel. There's a lot of call to action to try to move more folks to become digital customers. As we shared in the November On the Record, we've seen some success in increasing digital penetration with these special customer groups. And so we hope to continue to do that as they see value and work with their agency partners and really understanding how they can access information about their individual usage situation. Okay, now we'll move on to solar subscription.
Thanks, Katie. So I know that there was quite a bit of interest as well from the commission regarding how TOU rates were being applied within the solar subscription program rider. Over the next couple slides, just wanted to present, I think it's important to understand or provide the commissioners more of an outline of how this has occurred. The solar subscription pilot, it was originally filed in our 2018 rate case, and after it was approved and following that, there was also we had to construct the solar array, which was largely done in 2022, and then in 2023, when we received, or late 2022, early 2023. When we received the mandatory TOU order from the commission, that particular rider, the SSP rider, did not contemplate mandatory TOU rates. And as we as Evergy began to review that tariff and implement that tariff, we recognized and reached out to staff in January that tariff design would not enable us to implement any other type of TOU rate other than the TOU rate that was the residential peak adjustment charge. So we began discussing that with staff to determine what would be the best best path forward. I think, we had recommended, of course, that those customers be defaulted to that default time-based plan, similar to net metering customers. And so within that language, like the net metering customers, there is reference to billing period language. And so the commission had also agreed that those net metering customers would be billed under that peak adjustment plan. And Evergy thought that it was also appropriate to have, based on the language that was provided in the tariff that was filed at that time, that we would also move those solar subscription customers to the default time-based plan or peak adjustment plan. As we continue to have discussion with staff, we understand that they preferred that those solar subscription customers were able to have additional choice past just that peak adjustment charge rate. As well, there was also some discussion that there were some changes that needed to be made within the tariff to also address peak and off-peak, specifically with the services and access charge. So going to the next slide, Matt. So we began exploring ways to accommodate staff's concern to be able to allow those solar subscription customers to have more than just one rate available to them. So we began exploring a methodology where we could use a fixed allocation approach that would look at the peak and off-peak production of the solar array. And we did file revised tariffs to address this issue. I believe it was in the December timeframe. And so alongside with those revision tariffs, which we believe at least accommodated staff's concern about opening up that program to for those solar subscription customers to be able to enroll in more than just one TOU rate, to have more choice available to them. We also provided them a date that we would make this change. And so that change that we included to be able to make all of the required billing system changes, that date was, it was included as October. So we are still working through with staff, and we understand that they also still have concerns with that filing. So we wanted to be able to address the questions that the commission had provided to us. And I'll just stop now, and if there's any additional questions you would like to ask, I will attempt to answer.
And I'll just jump in and say that tariff was filed in Commission's file number ET-2024-0182. Mr. Chairman, did you have questions?
Yeah, just more of a procedural question for you, Judge. I kind of forget how these on the records are going to go. So will staff be commenting, or if I have a question for staff, should I ask it now or should I wait, or how are we proceeding?
I will give staff an opportunity to make comments at the end, but if you want to ask now, if it's pertinent now, you go right ahead.
No, I don't want to. So if they're going to get an opportunity, I'll ask them at that time. Thank you.
All right. Were there any other commission questions at this point?
Commissioner Kochmeyer here. I heard that Evergy, the company, just referred to this as the PSC mandated. Is that how this is referred to with everyone and the customers?
Commissioner Kochmeyer, are you referring to the broader education that we are having with customers, or specific to solar subscription?
A little bit ago, you or someone from the company just referred to this, the TOU, as the PSC mandated. That's my question.
Yeah, I'm not remembering that. So this is Katie. Specific to the overall implementation last year, we did, with the specific messaging we used was that Missouri was moving to time-based rates. And then we moved into the offerings that Evergy had for customers. And so we didn't use the mandated language. It was more that we were moving to time-based rates. Are you asking specific about the solar subscription program?
5 minutes ago, it was referred to as the PSC mandated time of use rate. Your presentation just now.
Yeah. You know what, Kim, it's on your first solar subscription. It says mandatory rate implement, the second bullet. I think that must be.
Okay, would you mind going back to that part?
Commissioner Kolkmeyer, can I jump in here and follow up on your question?
Yes.
I think what he's getting at is, yeah, I saw on one of your slides, you had mandated written about 4 times. And we had this conversation when we were going through this, and we were told that, you know, when you initially started getting the pushback from politicians and stuff, that Evergy pivoted and started using mandate in all of their publications and everything to try to remind the customer that it was not them. So basically to deflect some blame. And that just kind of added fuel to the fire of, oh, this is mandated, when in reality, every one of our orders is a mandate. So I think what Commissioner Kolkmeyer is trying to get at is, in your communications with the customer, obviously it's still with us because it's in several of your slides. Are you still referring to this as a mandate? Because we talked about this last time and the implications of that word. So how frequently are you using the word mandate in your customer facing communications? Because we're already seeing it, and when you're talking to us. I think that's what he was trying to get at. If I'm wrong, Commissioner, correct me.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You nailed it. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Chairman. Yes, no, the answer is no. We're not referring to the mandatory rate implementation. In fact, as we have moved past the implementation, we're not focusing on the implementation itself now, because that period, that would cause confusion if we continue to talk about that. What we are moving to is that how can customers be successful on their rates? And so it's a very personalized approach to customers, using those OAT Power tools, using those direct mails. And so that's the focus that we have now, is getting customer success and reminding them periodically of the choices and options that they do have should they choose. Especially, we'll be focusing on that as we get into more of the shoulder months, getting ready for summer, is reminding them of their options. And if you recall, we're also not, in 2024, we are no longer in market with the mass advertising about the implementation. That whole phase is now behind us as we're moving forward.
Okay, my other question is, are the Oracle study, is that being shared? Are your government liaisons sharing that with the legislature, or is that being disseminated to the public? Where 74% of your customers are saving money on this choice, on this time of use rate.
Kim, Kim, can you go back to talk about the time period?
Sure.
For that?
Right. Yeah. So that, and Matt, I don't know if you want to go back to that particular slide there. Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, Commissioner Kolkmeyer. So this presentation, or these numbers that I presented here, so this was back at the time when our customers were still going to, when the default rate was still going to be the 2-period rate. So the timing of this kind of gets a little complicated, I think, when we, sit back and think about the various orders that were provided. This analysis here is based on the June 2022 to May 2023 usage data. And Mr. Casely presented the summary of the bill impacts at that August on the record presentation. And then later, the commission reconsidered the default time of use rate from the 2-period time of use rate to the peak reward rate. So, so that, I mean,
So
that data.
is this information and data not current, or is this old data that we've seen before?
This is right.
Presented to us previous. Do you have any updated data on that from Oracle?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the data that was done, I mean, in this analysis was directional in nature at the time for us to be able to provide feedback to the commission as to what the impact of these various types of rates would be on our customers and to the utility. So that information, I mean, was presented, and just so that we would have continuous information presented to the commissioners, I wanted to refer back to this particular slide.
So my next question was, are your government liaisons sharing this with the legislature or just us?
I can't answer. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I would say we don't have anyone from our government affairs team here, but the message that the majority of customers would save without any change to any behavior change with TOU, that is a message that was being used, and I'm sure is being used still, but I don't know the exact conversations that they're having right now on TOU. But last year there was absolutely a lot of interest as we were in the peak of implementation. We had a lot of legislator discussions. We had a lot of media discussions, and the savings was absolutely something that we focused on. As you remember, there was a real panic, frankly, from both legislators, from from customers, from media, that were very nervous about how they would fare on these rates. This was in the very beginning, especially when we weren't talking about the specific rates yet, but we were talking about the fact that this was coming. That was part of the move to when we moved the campaign up 2 months. And so it was very high level, and absolutely talking about the opportunity for customers with these rates. And as we got feedback from stakeholders about really focusing on the why behind TOU, that was also part of that messaging strategy as well.
Well, with, I guess just a comment, if the company's government affairs and our in-house government relations isn't using this to educate the legislators, they need to be.
We will take that feedback back to our government affairs folks for sure.
Thank you. That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
Judge, I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you guys for joining us today despite the weather. I think that this remote technology is a perfect example. My kid's out today. Their school was canceled. My wife is home from school today. The legislature is out today. They are not meeting. And yet here we are still able to accomplish our tasks for today. So once again, I'm supportive of this method of communication. Going back to the cold weather customers, you said that you're anticipating, first off, are the all electric customers. I happen to fall personally into that category. We are electric heat. We do not have a secondary source of like gas. We do have a fireplace, but the efficiency of it is not going to be fantastic. You said you haven't gotten calls yet because December was 23% warmer days than average, but that the last week we've seen sub-zero temperatures here in Kansas City. What do you anticipate the increase in a customer's bill who's on the low differential, the default plan? What if they're all electric? Do you have any numbers that anticipate what increases they will see? Because you go back to that Oracle slide and you're looking at those subcategories of those who saw 20% plus increases are going to be those electric heat. Do you have any idea of what you said? You're probably going to get calls in February. I imagine that's probably true. Once the January's bills hit, do you have any idea what you might see in that January bill increase?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to determine just yet, but just knowing that, I mean, those customers who were all electric and their units we're trying to run, I don't know if you experience this too, but those units were running probably pretty consistently, trying to just keep the temperature, I mean, what you had set it on. So we know, that likely there will be an increase in usage from those customers. When we did the Oracle data previously, I recall that I think that there was an annual increase in the bills for those all electric customers of around $50 to $100. So that would be an annual figure. So I would assume, again, knowing that, those units are running during those peak times, that's when, those customers are going to see more of those charges during those peak times where it's more expensive. But I guess the best way I can answer your question is that we know that, based on that previous data, is that all electric customers, those who were seeing an increase, the median was $40 to I think $50 to $100 that they would see an annual increase.
Okay, to put this in a real life perspective, we do have a heat pump here in our house. We have a very modest, sized home, and we cannot set our thermostat above 64 and have the heat pump not meet that temperature without running 100% of the time with its auxiliary power. It does not shut off when it's -2 degrees outside, just to keep our house at 64 degrees. And so I know if we're having that experience, there's lots of folks in the territory here on our side of the state who have probably struggled with the same thing. So we'll want to keep an eye on what those January numbers look like and what kind of feedback you're getting once those bills do hit. Because if the heat pumps don't shut off for 14 days in a row, I can only imagine what that cost is going to be.
Yeah, I agree. And you're referring
I'll be able to tell you in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, there you go. And you're referring to the backup heat. Is that what you're referring? The backup heat is not.
Well, we don't have like in my neighborhood, there is no gas.
Okay.
We don't have backup heat. So I have a heat pump. Now in my thermostat, we have an Ecobee. You can go in there and turn it to auxiliary heat so that the strips in the furnace itself are also going. And we had to do that, and we've had to keep that on, and it's ran 100% of the time just to keep our house at 64 degrees. And it struggled for, a hard time getting to that in some of the instances. So, I know other folks are having similar experiences.
Yeah.
Judge, this is Sarah Lange. Would it be possible for me to offer a response to Mr. Holzman or Commissioner Holzman?
You have some information to share, Ms. Lange?
I do. So Commissioner Holzman, staff actually did a study of what you're just describing, and what the impact would be of time-based rates versus the otherwise applicable general use rate. And I think it was for all but maybe, I want to say it was about 75 customers total. Out of all of Evergy's customers they gave us information for, which was, I believe, about 50% of all of their residential customers. Because of the phenomenon you're describing, those customers are actually better off on the time-based rates, because where you're running at a constant output, you are actually using more energy off peak to make up for the higher amount on peak. So it becomes a simple numbers game. If there's 24 hours and only 4 of them are on peak, only 5 days of the week, and you're using the same amount in each hour, your average rate will actually be lower because of the time-based rates. And that would apply.
Now, does that include if you're in the low differential default?
The effect is less pronounced in the low differential default. That was one of our concerns, and I can direct you to that study. It'll take me a moment to find it, but it's been filed in this case regarding the request to change the default rate.
Okay. Well, thank you for that information. Like I said, I think it'll shake itself out, and as soon as this next bill cycle hits, we'll get a chance to actually take a look and see what happened. I do have another question. Is that the information you had for me?
Yes, and I will have my counsel email the judge with that filing information so that she can provide it to you where that study is actually located in the docket.
All right, thank you so much. I did have another question outside of the electric heat issue. When you look at the solar subscription rider that you're talking about, you are not referring to net metered customers, correct? That is folks who choose to purchase from a program where the power is offset by solar generated, but it's not necessarily reflecting what a net metered customer would have, which is generation on site. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Do
The
you
solar-
have any? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
Do you have any information on, what a net metered customer has? Is there any work being done towards those folks who are net metered and what their bills have changed in terms of time of use? Because I think they only could go to the low differential default, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct. They could only go to that, low differential. I don't have, I think we might have some more information, but I don't have that currently off the top of my head. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a
Well,
specific concern that you were wanting to address from that, or?
Well, I mean, we've
just
heard
the
from Mr. Casely in the past that the reason why Evergy couldn't offer differential time of use to net metered customers is because of the way that the statute was written and because of how the consumption of energy and the time that it was done. I mean, I think it gets pretty complicated, but my point is working towards a solution to where a net metered customer can be offered other options outside of just the low differential, so that they're not being penalized, as it were. Because I read the statute is, the way that it says, you shall offer to all net metered customers as if they were regular customers. And I would think that time use would qualify for that. You guys disagree. That's okay. But we need to be working towards a place where the net metered customer can have more options than just a default.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I believe, for my recollection, commissioners, that it had, there was even that interpretation was understood, both, by staff and other parties and Evergy, and had agreed that there may be some statutory language that would need to be pursued at some future point.
Okay.
Judge, may I respond? Staff does not agree that statutory change is needed, and we've presented that in the last rate case.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lange. We'll, I'll let staff have an opportunity to comment.
That's the questions I have at this time, Judge. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Are there other commission questions at this point?
Judge, this is Commissioner Roop. So back on the winter heating, is there a way that you can compare? Because when we get cold snaps like this that happen almost every year, you're going to get an increase of calls because that's going to drive up the bill. So is there a way of comparing the number of customer concerns and complaints about, their bill from after these cold snaps, to the level that you've gotten in previous cold snaps, so as to try to ascertain, is TOU having really any impact on this, or can we compare and say, oh wow, yeah, there is a bigger increase because of this, or it's negligible?
Yeah. So, Chairman, this is Julie Dragu. That's a really difficult question to monitor in the contact center, right? So we will see spikes in call volume and what might not even feel like a heavy call volume month like a January or February, just due to the sheer amount of customers that are going to be calling us in the summertime. So it will be a difficult question to answer, to say that what customers are calling about. I think we'll be able to see it just in kind of total call volume, as long as there's not storms or other things kind of muddying the waters. But Evergy's call volume trends, are pretty predictable. So it may be difficult to see specifically, but we will keep our ears peeled to what the agents are hearing, right? So.
But you can compare January of 2024 to January of 2023 to 22 and look for, and then look for any, large variances or thing.
Absolutely.
But then also, so you went back and you're estimating a 40, I think you said $40 to $100 annual bill impact for the all electric heating over the year.
Correct.
So majority, I don't know if it's parsed out on the slide, but majority of these are going to be on your average pay. So are you expecting a large increase of calls, like after a call snap, if it's, if I have a $48 annual increase, but that's averaged out to $4 a month, because I'm on the average billing, are you anticipating that generating those calls, or are people looking at their actual usage bill versus their billed amount? And can you speak to that?
I would guess most customers are looking at their billed amount, right? So particularly for our average payment plan, depending on what your, payment is per month, you may not see a change in that volume, right? Because we're only changing that if it's up or down 10%. So they really need to be monitoring their usage to see the impacts, particularly if they're on an average payment plan.
When you alter an average paying plan, you said you do that after there's a 10% variance. Is that automatic, or do you review these every once a quarter, or how does your system, do you just do them every day? Some are getting messages, or is it done in bulk? How do you send out those changes in the average pay amount, plan amount?
Yeah, it would be reviewed monthly, so a customer could see their change that month on their bill. So it's just a sort of a constant review at their time of billing.
And so if there's a variance above 10%, you're constantly changing people throughout the year, each month. Is that how it works?
If that threshold is met.
If it's met. Okay, thank you. After this implementation, have you seen an increase in your call volume or anything? Have you seen an increase of interest in MIA programs, energy efficiency programs, with all the attention that's been paid to people's bill? Are you seeing any uptick in energy efficiency as people are paying more attention to their electric bill, or has it been negligible?
I'll go ahead and take that. I don't know if we've done any direct correlation between the TOU and MIA programs. I mean, just generally during the last quarter of the year, we do tend to promote, or we do promote thermostats, for example. So alongside on our marketplace and kind of on that Black Friday and promoting thermostats. So we just generally see an increase in participation of our MIA programs. Even from an insulation perspective and participation in those programs. So I'm not sure that we have really put a direct correlation between the two, though.
Okay. That's all I have at this time, Judge. Thank you.
Commissioner Coleman, did you have something? Go ahead.
I do. Chairman Roop's question made me wonder about another correlation, and that for Evergy is regarding budget billing. With everyone calling in regarding time of use and getting educated on that, in the end, did you see any type of increase, or have you studied any correlation between those inquiries as far as budget billing is concerned also? Thanks.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So if you, I don't know, Matt, if you want to put that slide back up that has the average payment plan. So that is effectively our budget billing program. And so you can see the trends over the last couple of years have been well maintained, right? And I think while we follow this pattern with average payment plan, you know, I think we will kind of keep an eye on this because it does feel like a program for customers who kind of maybe want to set it and forget it, but also a time of use rate options. Customers may be really interested in seeing those month-to-month impacts using a time of use rate. So we'll keep an eye on this, but I don't think it's significantly increased or significantly decreased.
Thank you.
Are there any other commission questions at this point? I think Evergy had just another slide that they hadn't completely gotten to. So if you have other questions, we can get to those then. Go ahead, Evergy.
Sure. I think the conversation we wanted to have around this reporting section is from Evergy's perspective. You know, we've been reporting the items that have been requested on a monthly basis, and knowing we are through the implementation period and now we're just in the you know, continued education, sort of watching all these different factors, wanted to throw out an opportunity to discuss moving to a less frequent reporting, and then also just reducing the amount of information that we're sharing in that report, and just limiting it to some of these other things that I think are the meat and potatoes of what people really want to know, which includes the enrollment data, you know, the rate switching information, anything new on the education front, we can continue sharing. I just think a lot of that monthly report contains so much focused around the implementation that some of it may become stale as we continue to report it. But interested in, you know, what's important.
Is the pause because you're looking for an answer, or?
No,
Okay.
I'm throwing it out. We don't have to decide today. I think it's just more for consideration.
We shall gladly consider that.
And I think the point there, Chairman, is really, if you look at those monthly reports, what we were requested to provide, as Julie was saying, it was very focused on tracking the implementation as we moved toward the default and getting updates related to the transition. And now that we're through that, a lot of what we are presenting or filing monthly hasn't changed since implementation. So it would be interesting to see if there are new things that you all are interested in that we're not currently reporting on, that we should be thinking about. How do we evolve that reporting just as we're evolving the campaign in 2024? And that concludes our presentation.
Okay, I'll ask again if any of the commissioners have other questions that they didn't ask that they want to ask at this time.
Judge, when are we doing this again?
These presentations were set up quarterly. The next one hasn't been, the date I don't believe has been set, but.
Judge, this is Jim Fisher. I think they anticipated in the order of April presentation is the last one.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you so much. I don't have any other questions at this time.
Judge, as Commissioner Roop, I do have some questions for staff, or is staff going to comment, or how should we proceed?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and ask staff and public counsel if they would like to make some comments. So I'll go ahead then and ask staff, Ms. Merz, if you were intending on Ms. Lange or whoever to make those comments, you can go ahead.
For the time of use portion, staff plans on continuing its practice of responding in the docket with written comments. However, we did want to address the filing that we made Friday about the ET docket, our 2024-0182. And the reason that we wanted to bring it to the commission is that if the commission wants the customers taking service on that tariff to be able to use or opt into other rate plans, that needs to happen a little sooner in our estimation, because we're very concerned that if it doesn't happen before June 2024, that customers will drop off the SSR tariff, and that will cause a risk and a cost shift to the non-participants. And we really would like to see an explanation from Evergy about what it would take to update those billing systems. So we were looking for a little guidance now in that docket for how to proceed. And the two major questions are if the commission wants the SSR customers to be able to opt into that rate plans, we will need Evergy to provide information about what the appropriate mechanisms and percents for each rate plan are by period and season. And that if the customers want, or if the commission wants the SSR customers to be able to opt into other rate plans, how long will it take Evergy to program its billing system to allow that opt-in? So those are the things that we, wanted to try to get before you today in consideration of that other docket. And I will turn it over to Sarah to see if she has anything else to add on that topic.
No, I think that was a very good explanation, and to just add one thing though, Commissioner Holzman was exactly right. This is not under the net metering statute, so any legal prohibitions that some parties may believe would apply there to expanding the access of the SSR tariff customers to other TOU rate plans does not. And as I indicated, staff does not agree with Evergy's interpretation that those net metering customers are prohibited from participating in other TOU rates.
And Commissioner Roop, did you have questions you wanted to ask staff?
Yeah, I think staff kind of answered. It was basically the company had said they had, made their December filing with alternative responses, I guess, on that. I was just going to kind of see if that satisfied staff, but it sounds like they're still having concerns. So yeah, I would echo what staff would say, is because I'm hearing that the reason that the solar subscription participants are really not allowed to do anything besides, the default TOU is because it's a cost to the billing system and the impact. I would like to know, how significant of a cost is that, so we can kind of weigh those things. But ideally, at least from my perspective, and I'm speaking from my own personal opinion, we want to make sure all these options are available to all customers, even those with solar panels on their home. I would like to get to that point so you don't have so many segmented, well, if you have this, you can't get that. And that would be my overarching goal, is to have as many options for customers, regardless if you opted into a previous, solar subscription program or not. So that's my personal opinion of where I would like to see, but I am cognizant of the cost. So, if we could get some estimations from the company so we can compare it to the number of subscribers, that would be maybe helpful in helping us understand your position a little bit more. And I think that's kind of what staff was asking.
Are there other commission questions?
Yes, Judge, this is Commissioner Kochmeyer. My question is to the company about the study, Oracle study. Did Oracle do that because it was estimate? Is that all projections? Or do you need another Oracle study going forward? Or can the company use its own data to get back with us maybe sometime summer to see how this is all panning out?
Yeah, I'll respond to that, Commissioner. So with respect to that Oracle study, so that was based on historical usage information from those customers. And so it was based on their usage and then applying the different rates to determine the calculation of the bill impact or the revenue impact for the company. We, have discussed, internally, I guess one step back, there is a cost to have OPower run that analysis. So, and it's not inexpensive, and we want to make sure that we weighing our options and making sure that there's information that we can gain from running that analysis. For example, you had mentioned at the end of the summer. Yes, we believe that probably at different periods or cadence that it makes sense to be able to run that analysis. I think at the end of the summer is a good time. At the end of winter, that will provide us more information that we can then provide back to the commission, or also from the standpoint of how we may be messaging with customers for the future. Yes, we do intend to do that analysis on an ongoing basis, but certainly not on a monthly basis.
Okay, thank you. I think you're after the heating season and after the cooling season, I think that's probably the information that I'm after versus hiring a consultant to do this or what have you, if you can use your own data.
Yeah, to be very honest, due to the large amount of data that is processed, we would utilize OPower to run their analysis. They have that information, they have the modeling complete. They have our information that they can perform that analysis. It requires computing time for them to be able to do that work. So I just didn't want to mislead you from the standpoint of, yes, it's the data that we receive from the AMI meters, but we would still continue to have like an OPower run that analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other commission questions, either for the company or for staff? Okay, did Office of the Public Counsel have any remarks they wanted to make, Mr. Kleiser?
I won't be long, Your Honor. Obviously, we again thank the company for coming forward and presenting this information, keeping us all informed. And I also thank the commissioners for their involvement, the excellent questions that they've asked the company. Very briefly, I think that there was kind of a question brought up about what should be the next step, specifically with regard to the fact that the company is making a request here at the end of its presentation. I think the proper course of action there would be for the company to file that request as part of this docket and allow parties to respond in due course, instead of bringing it up as part of this on the record presentation. But beyond that, I have no specific comments unless the commissioners have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kleiser. Are there any commission questions for Mr. Kleiser? All right. Well, it sounds like that is all of the questions, unless, like I say, the commissioners want to make any closing remarks or have additional questions, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I just will thank the company for the amount of data that you have been sharing. It has been extremely insightful and very helpful for all the parties to see as we've gone through this process. So your willingness and, well, we kind of made you, but you're doing it with a smile, which is nice. But sharing that information, it does really help us see these trends and flush out the what's actually happening versus the boogeyman around the corner or overly hopeful projections and stuff. So the data is very insightful. It's helpful. And I agree with OPC is, yeah, put that request in the docket. We can kick around everybody's viewpoints, and then we can decide how we want to move forward. But I firmly believe these have been extremely helpful for the commission. And so I look forward to the next one in April. And then we can decide how to proceed with all the data dumps in between time. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge, for being flexible and getting us on this WebEx at short notice.
I want to thank everyone. I want to second the chairman's comments and thank the company for bringing this information forward. It's been very helpful. Thank you.
All right. Oh, Commissioner Coleman? No? Okay. Well, if there's nothing further from any of the commissioners, then I will echo the comments. I appreciate everyone's flexibility and being able to take this completely online, keeping everyone safe and off the roads today. Commissioner Coleman's nodding in agreement with me. I just want to make sure you didn't have anything else you wanted to add, Commissioner. All right, great. I think that will conclude our presentation for the day, and we can go ahead and go off the record. And thank you all. Be safe if you're getting home to your from your office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.